Good afternoon, Ted McClintock here. Wanted to discuss something I saw driving around Colorado Springs the other day. I'm going to put it up in this video. It's a picture of somebody basically on their knees being executed, and it says, "Shoot your local pedophile." You know, as a criminal defense attorney, people look at us and wonder what our job actually is. Well, I see my job as defending everyone in the United States. And the reason I say that is because we have to defend the Constitution first. And the Constitution, it's one of its primary tenets is the presumption of innocence. This kind of accusation comes out often through many different channels. We don't know, and you don't know when you hear somebody is accused what exactly the situation is. You can look through the internet, find cases like the Brian Banks case, the gentleman who spent 10 years in prison because he was afraid to take a case to trial because he basically faced a life sentence. So he took a deal, and it turned out that that accuser actually made that up, and it was a completely false allegation. And our country is riddled with those kind of statements and accusations. The number of folks that were actually executed in the South from rape allegations based upon a situation where they were unwilling to admit that they were having an interracial relationship is astounding. And you can look that up as well. Right now, there is a rush to judgment to anyone accused in a sexual charge. We see the fact that when judges call in jury panels on a theft case, they bring in 30. On a sex offense case, they bring in 100. Why? Because on those sex cases, a third of the jury immediately says they've prejudged, they already believe the person to be guilty, and assume that the police have got the right person and have done this immaculate investigation. Oftentimes, the only evidence in these cases is one person's word against another. Reasons for these kind of allegations: disgruntled stepchildren, divorces, promises to get certain things from one parent or the other. I have seen families utterly destroyed by these accusations that later proved absolutely to be false. Neighbors won't talk to them, they stay away from them, they shun them from their children, and they wind up having to leave and move even though the allegations are 100% false. One of the other problems is these kind of allegations, people say it's a slap on the wrist. Even for a simple touch over the clothing of someone underage, you can receive a life sentence in prison in the state of Colorado. And certainly, even if placed on probation, those are 2 life probation sentences. So the belief that these are handled very kindly and gently with slaps on the wrist are simply false. Even while on probation on a sex offense, you are basically in a prison without walls, restricted from going shopping, leaving your house. And you might say rightfully so, and maybe that's true. But when we jump to a conclusion when someone is charged and we start throwing out desires to hurt them, to kill them, and would do this without the opportunity for a trial or even to give somebody the right to be heard in a trial to defend themselves, is absolutely disgraceful in this country. We can do better. We have to do better. I fight for the rights of people accused of these all the time. And I have seen so many false allegations levied against completely innocent people, but they are forever marked by this kind of accusation. The kind of sticker that I saw on that car suggesting that if someone is labeled as a pedophile, which unfortunately they get labeled even before the charges are proven, that they should be killed or executed is something I see on social media, Instagram, Facebook all the time, every time one of these accusations is made. That is extremely dangerous. Can you imagine doing that about anyone else? Doing that about any even other kinds of allegations? It doesn't happen. But this is a class of persons that simply by an allegation are somehow deemed to be beyond the protection of the law and the rights of common decency. I'm here to submit the Constitution applies, and the Constitution means nothing unless we make sure that we follow those tenets and make sure that we get it right and we actually go through the entire criminal justice process, have a fair and impartial juror, a judge that gives a fair opportunity for trial, and we actually examine that evidence fairly without coming to the conclusion because there's an allegation it must be true.